disappointing as I also find this topic very challenging because, as we know, curling clubs are unique. So it's hard for just a blanket approach to apply to everybody. Sorry, got to pop up here. With that said, some of the clubs are owned independently. Some of you are run by the rec boards. There's a lot of different variables that, this PST charge doesn't apply to everybody the same. I also believe this opens up another issue in that, curling clubs are really struggling. So asking government to take more money off the table is a challenge. So we're going to be doing a lot of research on other ways we can approach the government to really help out our curling clubs that are struggling. With that said, and for the time being, this is what we do know, is that we do have to start charging PST on our league fees, our memberships for anybody over the age of 18. PST is not charged for anybody under 17 if it's for instructions, lessons, classes. Admissions to spectate don't have to be charged PST. Sales for fundraising, banquet dinners, concerts. If it's a fundraiser, you don't have to charge PST. And there's also the other caveat is this small supplier exemption. So if your sales are less than $50,000 in taxable supplies, then you don't have to pay the PST or the GST as well. And I don't know how many clubs that would apply to. I know it depends if you're tied to the hockey rink or if you own your own facility. There's a lot of variables on that, but it is a bit of a loophole and something that can help out. The other thing that I will say is, I've met with Sask multiple times about this to try to get an interpretation of kind of how this PST applies to sport, if there's any ways to kind of get us out of having to charge it, what it actually applies to. I have also sent letters to the provincial government. I'm still waiting on a response, unfortunately, but to say that, curling's really, it's a detriment to curling to have to charge this PST, especially coming out of COVID. So hopefully I'll get a response by the end of September. And if I haven't heard anything by then, I'll reach back out and see if I can find somebody that'll talk to me. And again, hopefully the clubs can really pull together on this so that it's not something we have to start charging. But in the meantime, we do have to charge it, but up until October 1st, we don't. So I would really push you to get your memberships in by October 1st so that they don't have to charge the extra 6%. If you do have specific questions, please send them to me in email. That way I can kind of pool all the questions together, send them to everybody as a group so that, lots of the clubs are going to have the same questions and be in different scenarios. So with that, I don't have a whole lot of other information until, I can get back to the government on what they're willing to let us bend on. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about PST. And I know there's lots of burning questions out there. If there's a couple that you want to ask right now, I can't say that I have all the answers, but I can try. And then, like I said, if we can just do it in an email format, it can then go to all the clubs in a Q&A, get posted on the website, and hopefully give us more information to send to the government as well if we kind of have it in a written format.
Is there any burning PST questions? You can either type them in the chat function or feel free to unmute as well and you can ask the question. Okay, so if there's no further questions on the PST, we'll move to the next topic on our agenda tonight. So we're very excited to welcome Carrie DeGoyer from the newly Borgo Curling Center in Melfort to discuss some fundraising, sponsorship, and facilities. Welcome tonight, Carrie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I've never attended one of these town halls before, but I signed up for this one to learn what other clubs do for fundraising and sponsorships, and then I was asked to present on it. So we've had some recent wins here in Melfort, so I thought I'd share a little bit about that. And it seems like curling's growing in popularity in Melfort. We've done a pretty good job getting new people out on the ice, and we also just raised our tally now is $320,000 in capital for the purpose of upgrading our facility. But we also have some major challenges coming our way, or we have major challenges now. And I think maybe some of these challenges have made us willing to adapt and change and try new things. And I'm willing to share details because when I first started getting into this, I talked to a lot of towns and I talked to a lot of clubs, and lots of other clubs were willing to share their information with me. So I found that extremely helpful. So I'm very willing to share our situation. I'll also just say I'm not the general manager of the curling club. I'm not the president. I'm just a board member that I've been on the board for 6 or 7 years now, and we were in pretty big trouble. Our equipment was, an imminent breakdown was going to happen, and we weren't really doing anything about it. So I kind of dove in about 8 months ago. I also happened to go on mat leave, so apparently I have time on my hands, and I dove in. So I thought I'd start just talking about Melford's situation so that you can kind of compare it with your own rinks. But we have a 50-year-old rink. It's not connected to the hockey rink. It's standalone, 6 sheets of ice. And what's unique about us is we're independent from the city of Melfort. So our nonprofit owns the land and rink, which I know some other clubs that have signed on tonight are similar to us, but I know there's way more clubs out there that I think that get pretty heavily subsidized by their municipalities or get or are owned by them. So we get no financial support from the city. We need to break even, and our costs every year are about, it varies between $120,000 and $140,000 a year. So we need to make enough revenue to at least match that. And since we're still independent from the city, we've been able to do that. But we do not have it all figured out. It's a process, and I know it's super challenging. You can go to the next slide. In our case, we have not kept up with capital upgrades, that's for sure. And we're dealing with aging infrastructure. And I also thought I would just put on here what our power and energy bills are. So this was in 2019 before we had to shut down. So we were at about 35 grand a year in those 2 utilities. And we did some calculating. Our carbon charges will be an additional $15,000 a year if we don't do anything to the energy efficiency of our building. The silver lining with us is, since we've never really upgraded our building, there's lots of low-hanging fruit, but the capital required is really expensive. And we were looking at this, and we're like, geez, we got to do something now before we fall behind. You can go to the next slide. I'm not going to go through all of this, but these are just some things that we are dealing with. We have a stupid flat roof. I don't know why I still see those being constructed, but our entire roof alone to retrofit it is going to be over $1 million. So I was talking 8 months ago, I started diving into this. We were undergoing a revitalization project. We're phasing it. Phase 1 is to replace certain components of our ice plant and retrofit only 25% of our flat roof because it's very cost prohibitive. Our ice pad, we would love to, replace that, but that's another $1 million. So then you start wondering, well, how do you pay for it? What's realistic? And what will give us the best value? So you can go on to the next slide. Some recent wins for us. I think we've done a pretty good job of our social media marketing. Our Facebook page is probably one of the most liked Facebook pages across curling clubs in Saskatchewan. We use Canva and Poster My Wall all the time to make our posters. This St. Patty's Fun Spiel, we started that 5 years ago. We had a new member. He's actually from Lanigan. I know the people listening in from Lanigan would know him. He joined our board, he had this idea, and then he executed the idea. It's one thing coming up with ideas, but you need people on your board to actually execute them. This Fun Spiel has been a game changer for us. I don't know if that first one, if just all the stars aligned, but it went over so well. It's just one night only. You play a couple 4N mini games. Everybody has to play every position. We play music out on the ice. It's a 19+ event. And we've held it ever since. We have other fun spiels too. And we can say at least 20 new full-time members are part of our club now in that younger age group that had never really curled before. They didn't curl in high school. These fun spiels were kind of the first time they had ever curled. And now we've got all these brand new members because of it. And last season was really successful for us. Again, there was more bond spiels, but there was 4 bond spiels in particular. 3 of them were fun spiels, and at least 90 curlers out there were people who had never curled before or hadn't curled in a long time. 3 of them were fun spiels, and then the other one was just a non-competitive, normal bond spiel. So that's encouraging. And then our seniors is what keeps our club alive. We have a very popular daytime league. They curl twice a week, 2 times a week, or 2 times a day. And our open bond spiel still continues to draw in large crowds. And then our 50th anniversary celebration was last weekend, which was really successful as well. It was 50th anniversary of our curling rink. We've been around in Melfort for over 115 years, but you can go to the next slide. Yearly advertising partnerships. If your club isn't doing this already, you really need to do it. And when you're asking businesses to partner with you, you need to show that you're going to provide return on their investment. And you'll notice on our social media pages or anytime we're talking to businesses, we're always very positive. Why would someone sponsor or partner with you if you're struggling or if you're dying? So we're always trying to show them numbers and show them that our rink's a happening place. Show the economic or social impact of your rink, whatever that business, whatever it makes them tick, try to show them that. So here's just some examples of some advertising things that we have. We have 28 businesses that partner with us. It'd be interesting to know what everybody charges for these things. I know there's probably an argument where people will say, well, Melfort's a bigger community than ours, so you guys can charge more, but I disagree. Don't sell yourself short. The thing with Melfort is there's lots of things to do. So there's a lot more competing groups out there. But if you're a smaller town with only a hockey and a curling rink, ask the same amount as us, because I think they're going to get as much value out of it as they're getting out of ours. So I can go to the next slide.
Carrie, I don't know if you wanted to stop at all, but are any clubs willing to maybe share what they do charge for those type of partnerships?
Dustin, it's Doug from Twin Rivers.
Hi, Doug.
What we charge, we have 4-foot by 8-foot Coroplast signs, where we charge an annual fee of $500. We waive the production cost of those signs, which is about $125 if the partner signs up for 3 years. We also have the house logos, and I'm trying to recall if the house logos are, I think they're $1,000. They used to be $200, but it was a bit of a stretch, so we've been charging $1,000. The one benefit that we do have is we have the restaurant upstairs, which is open throughout the year. So, you know, to an advertiser, that's worth something a little bit extra.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Doug.
And I know in our case, there's probably room for improvement for us, I think, but it takes someone to take the time to do it. I know with our house decals, when we started signing partners 10 years ago, we kind of told people, you pay for the cost of the production, and then these things last about 10 years. And then we just kind of did a handshake agreement, and some of these partners were, the existing ones were just charging $500 a year, and I think we should be charging more, but it was kind of a handshake agreement. And so any new partners we sign on now are $750. And yeah, we're kind of going that route. Any new partners, we're asking more money. Existing, whatever. If there's any other,
Carrie,
should I continue on?
Carrie, it's
Yeah,
Doug
go
again. I got a question for you. I'm curious, you're really successful with attracting younger folk. What extent has been the impact of social media to that?
It's a good question. I follow a lot of other curling clubs on Facebook just so I can see what everyone else is up to. And I don't know if we just kind of have a little bit more of that small town feel, and we just seem to get a lot, and maybe because we're not owned by the city, we just seem to get a lot of people share our stuff, people like our stuff, people comment on it. If you look through our stuff, anytime we host a fun spiel, I'm always trying to take pictures, and I don't know, people see people like them on our social media curling and it seems to get word out. I don't know what the answer is, how much is due to social media. I also don't know what the kids these days do anymore. I thought I was young, but I I don't know. It seems like Facebook is not as popular as it used to be. I don't know what people are on now, but we're on Instagram. Probably 5 years too late, but
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Doug. I think we can continue rolling with the PowerPoint.
sure. So capital fundraising. Like I said, last fall, we knew that our chiller in particular, a breakdown was imminent, and our roof had been leaking for a while. And I think a lot of people will know the feeling where you got a volunteer board, nobody really steps up. And I decided to start looking into grants, and I found one. I went through the work of applying for it. And then we started doing corporate fundraising after that. But what I've learned, curling rinks are very complicated. We're not just building a shed here. This is complicated, and making a plan takes expertise, ideally in project management. The stuff I've had to learn. I'm an agronomist by trade. I didn't know anything about this. So I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people, trying to learn what I can. And then it takes a lot of money to even make a plan. So we went the whole do-it-yourself route. We knew there's other things that need to get replaced. So we got quotes from everyone, but I would have been a fan of paying someone to do that work for me, but trying to convince our board to spend thousands of dollars on a consultant or to do a feasibility study was a hard sell. So we did it the do-it-yourself route. And when you start, capital fundraising, to be honest, I just Googled how to do it, and you're supposed to do the quiet phase first. You talk to the big hitters first, and then you go public. So that's kind of what we did. But there is a pretty big hesitancy to be the first donor. Even the heavy hitters like Richardson, right? Richardson used to be the one that you go to because they love supporting community. But even now, recently, they changed their stipulations where your project has to be 80% fundraised already before they step in. So you can see if everybody's like that, then it's hard to get to 80%. So with us, we started with phase one, $420,000. And pretty early on, we knew that we were going to reach that goal pretty quickly. So then we increased our goal before you talk to too many businesses. So our goal is $1 million. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot of money. It sounds like we're going to get a brand new rink, but we are not. I just told you our roof alone is $1 million. Thankfully, our roof isn't totally. Part of our roof's okay. It's just 5,000 square feet of it is a big problem. What else was I going to say here? Grants are going to be key, and I'm not talking the little $2,500 grants. I'm talking the bigger infrastructure grants from usually the federal government. But all of those need to see that you have money in the bank. So I talked about back in January, I found a grant that we could apply for, and it basically said that you need to have money in the bank, and we did not, but I made it look like we did. So yeah, that's a big challenge, especially for us because we're not owned by the municipality, right? So we can't just show we have money in the bank. We don't have it. So that's why we started corporate fundraising. We plan on leveraging it for more grants. Can go to the next slide. So yeah, we raised $280,000 in capital from businesses in 8 months. And this is all separate from our current existing advertising agreements. And then last weekend we had our 50th anniversary celebration and we raised another 40 grand there from like the people in attendance. So we made a sponsorship proposal and then we had all your recognition tiers, and you need to offer something. And in our case, the big one was naming rights of our rink, naming rights of our lounge, naming rights of our change rooms. And at first we changed that proposal probably 100 times as we started talking to more people. And at first we didn't put a price for the naming rights of the rink. We wanted to see if we had it in there, but we wanted to see if someone would offer us something. And we did get an offer for 100 grand for lifetime, and we actually rejected that, which is kind of crazy, but it was so early in the grand scheme of things that we rejected it. And then we ended up changing the proposal, 100 grand, 10 years naming rights, and we had Borgo Industries sign on to that, which is really nice because then in 10 years we can do it again. I know there's other ways to do it. You could probably put it out for tender, but in Melfort and anywhere in the Northeast, really, we're kind of the first ones to have offered naming rights for a building. It's never really been done before in Melfort. I know places like Moosomin, they're really good at it, so they probably should tender it out and they'd get a lot of bites, but that's how we did that. Know your worth, set your recognition tiers accordingly. Same thing, even though you're a smaller town, don't sell yourself short because I don't think it really matters. I'll go to the next slide. Competition is so fierce. We've been rejected a lot. There's so many worthy projects out there, and Melfort's no different. There's so many groups, so many things going on that, yeah, we're not the only thing to do in Melfort. So we got rejected a lot, but we always try to be positive. Don't be woe is me when you're talking to people. I'm being a little bit woe is me in front of you guys, but when we're on social media and talking to businesses, I'm hyping things up. And we really stress what's in it for the business. So I mentioned we have our house ice decals. We also did, as part of this capital fundraising, we are adding extra ice decals, and we offered 5 years of free advertising with that. But it had to be over and above what they already do. If they're already a current advertiser, they still had to do that. I think that's it for this slide. We can go to the next one. What we learned, we didn't just mail out a letter, we called everyone, and everyone loves to talk, loves the curling rink and understands its importance, but it was often just talk. You needed persistence, and we did not have enough people to do this. I underestimated how hard it is for people to ask for money. That's not an easy thing to do. So having to follow up with everyone was time consuming. On the topic of persistence, if a business tells you no and you think that you should be a yes, tailor the package to suit the company. So there's a few instances where they don't sponsor capital projects. And the one company for sure was like, well, you should be our league sponsor for $2,000 a year, which was excessive, I think, but not excessive. It was a stretch, and they signed up no problem. It's just one example. Volunteers. So I'm talking about all this stuff as if this was easy, but I know that it is really hard to find volunteers. It's always the same few people. Just be aware of that when you're planning fundraising events. We did this big anniversary celebration last weekend. It was a ton of work. We raised 40 grand. That's great. But I told you we have a goal of $1 million. So we're going to have to do a whole bunch of those to reach $1 million, and it's not worth it. But there was other side benefits to that event. The other thing you learn, curlers are cheaper. Seems like they don't freely spend their money at fundraising events as much as we expected. You can go to the next slide. So what now? In our case, we've spent so much time on this. I would rather, me personally, and I think all our volunteers would rather spend our time managing the rinks programs and striving to be continue to be operationally self-sufficient, working on new programs, new events, new ideas. This whole large scale capital fundraising is beyond our expertise, and it's challenging. And I kind of question, at what point does the municipality need to step up and subsidize? Is there any way that we can strengthen our position? I know some clubs out there get a smoking deal from their town, so I'm kind of using that as ammo for our city to contribute, because they haven't contributed yet. I haven't asked them yet either. I'm just trying to build a case and trying to figure out what we should do next. So that's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carrie. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job there in Melfort. So it was absolutely our pleasure to hear you speak on what you've all been on doing. And I think now is just a great opportunity for all the clubs who are joining us here on this call tonight to ask Carrie any questions you might have about their recent challenges and also their success they've been having. So just wanted to open the floor up to questions. If anyone wants to unmute or ask their question in the chat function, you can do so now.
I would really like to know what people, what some towns charge their club to lease their facility. I know some clubs nearby, they just charge them $15,000 a year and then cover everything. That's the dream. But because we have these big expenses, I think that's why we've been willing to try new things, and it's working. So, but it's time for the city. I'm not saying the city should take us over. I just want them to help us with capital.
Is there any questions on the floor for Carrie? Okay, well, if there's no questions, or maybe if you think of one over the next kind of few minutes here, we can go back and ask more questions at the end. But we'll just continue on to the next slide here. And thanks a bunch again, Carrie. Just about kind of a year-round business opportunity. So as curling clubs are only open for part of the year with ice and sometimes only for half of the year, kind of the challenge exists of what to do when the ice is out. So many curling clubs across the province and across Canada have found successful revenue generating events through club rentals throughout the off season, or just different community events. So there's a few examples listed here, and just wanted to kind of ask everyone if there's any not on the list that you have done in the past that have been successful in kind of raising additional funds for your club through the off season. We have a picture here of the Melfort celebration last weekend.
At this event, we had a request for hosting their wedding. We have the Carrie Vickers Center in Melfort. It's a way nicer facility, but we kind of offer a alternative, affordable option.
Dustin, it's Doug from Twin Rivers again. I guess to add to what Carrie just said, we also rent out our facility. Again, we've got an advantage with a concrete floor, but we do rent it out for weddings, and it's amazing what some people will spend on a wedding. Mm-hmm. The most recent wedding we had, they had a $14,000 rented, what do you call it, chandelier. And I'm just guessing a little bit, but I think that they spent probably $25,000 to $30,000 on tables, chairs, decorations, etc. We do have a larger facility than some of the other nicer facilities in the community, so that helps. The other one I'll mention, that was an idea that I think Estevan's done before, and it was suggested to us by a former Estevan resident, is a steak and lobster supper. And that's been pretty successful for us. It's a lot of work, as Carrie suggested before, so don't charge low for it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Doug. And just wanted to also kind of add this one to the list. It's from my local hometown in Wadena. There was a new home center that went up, and there's also a restaurant in there through the off season, but it's also been rented out to one of the local businesses for 5 months as just storage when they're moving into their new building. So out there in Wadena, that was one use that they had throughout the summer months to generate some additional revenue. I think we have a couple questions or just a couple things in the chat here. Just a congrats to Carrie. It looks like from Diane. Awesome. Perfect. So we're just going to move into a poll question here. So I'm just going to pull up the poll here now. So the question being, does your club have events or rentals in the off season to generate revenue? So just a quick thing on the picture that's in this slide. So this is from the Moncton Curling Club out in New Brunswick. So their club was used as a TV production thing this past summer. So that was one other kind of way for them there locally in Moncton. A few more votes coming in here. Look like we have a couple more. Perfect. I'm just gonna share the results here. Can everyone see the results from the poll? Everyone can see the results. So pretty close, with yes being 57% and no being 43%. So pretty split there. Everyone can see the poll results?
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Perfect. We'll move to the next. I think we have another poll question here. Move to the next slide. Kellen, are you able to move to the next slide there? Perfect. So the next kind of question we have is just, would your club take part in a strategic planning webinar to help develop one? Is kind of future planning usually ends up in success. And so just interested if your club would be interested in having one hosted virtually or in person. So we would kind of set this up over potentially virtually over 3 kind of evenings with 3-hour sessions each. Couple more seconds here. Awesome, thanks everyone. So it looks kind of the consensus that it would be better to kind of host that virtually. So we're definitely going to look into doing that here sometime over the course of the season. Awesome. So we'll just move into our kind of next section of the town hall, just a conversation kind of around club membership health, and as well as providing some strategies for increasing and growing membership. And we're going to start also again with a poll question here, our final poll question of the night. And we're just kind of curious more how your club's doing, and if your membership's declining, it's kind of staying the same, being stagnant, or growing. And then hopefully if we do have, we kind of know where some of these results might turn to, and we want to provide some resources and just some strategies to help improve membership kind of going forward post pandemic here. here were the results from the poll. So it looks like the majority is kind of staying the same, which is okay. It's good that we don't have a bunch that are declining, but I think the story could be said across lots of the province that we have a bunch of clubs in each of the three areas, and in particular, as I think we might be seeing from Bill here in the chat, and in the youth curlers, is the numbers are kind of smaller coming up. So we're going to be talking about that here kind of in a little bit, of some strategies to increase membership. Awesome. So to kick off those strategies, I'll hand it over to Curl Sask Region Coordinator Brian Champion to start talking about some successful leagues.
Hi everyone. I think like most clubs, I'm in Rosetown. We're always looking for new ideas, but sometimes there's some hesitancy to try new things in case you alienate someone who doesn't like them. So the question that I have, and we'd like you to participate in this either through the chat that Dustin will monitor, or just open up your mics and let us know what's working for you. But the question is, in your club, are you experimenting with the new formats like singles, doubles, triples, stick curling, or any other formats that you're working on or that might be out there? So the first part of that question is, are you working on those? Are you trying to develop them? And the second part is, how is it going for you if you're already doing it? So please open it up and let's have that discussion.
Brian, it's Doug from Twin Rivers again. We do have a stick league, which offers another opportunity for current curlers. I don't think it's attracting any new curlers. We did try triples, 3 sessions of triples last year. Unfortunately, it was late in the season, but it was kind of an opportunity to test it and try and warm some people up for this year. I'm just hoping that we do a good job of following up with those individuals, because that's the thing I'm most concerned about, is not following up properly with the folks that tried triples last year. And there were some new curlers into triples. That's what we focused on.
That's good, Doug. So if I understand you right, you've tried a couple things, but you're not sure whether or not that will continue on into future years?
The challenge with triples, well, last year we did it, but it was very late in the season. So, you know, when we talked to the people that participated, they enjoyed it. Their plans were to participate this season now. I don't know how good of a job. I need to chat with our manager and see where we're at in terms of following up with those folks that tried triples last year, especially the new curlers, because it's so critical to get those new curlers back out again. Right. It's just so difficult to get current curlers to switch from the Classic 4 over to triples, or to do both for that matter.
And just jumping in here a little bit, Doug, and I think with the triples format, it can be extra challenging for the adult curlers or those that have curled for a long time, but it's an especially important format for our youth curlers coming up. And we just piloted it at our camp with all of our kind of 16 U15 curlers at the Sutherland here in August, and we're actually running next weekend the first U15 triple spiel, and there's going to be five teams or 15 new curlers trying it. And when they're so young and just learning, I think that format especially is important because they get to play all the different positions, right? So that's where it is, that format particularly is kind of tailored to the younger age group, as well as shorter in end length, which is also beneficial for the younger ones, but as well as what we'll talk about, maybe jumping into the next point about kind of the duration of ends, but triples and the doubles is definitely much faster.
Yeah, I agree. I think triples is a fantastic way to introduce people to the game, just because of the variety of positions that you play, as you mentioned.
So we've got a little bit of action here on the chat. It says going to try doubles this year, fingers crossed. Of course, everyone likes it during the fun spiels. One question or one answer was staying quite traditional so far. Seniors are using the sticks. Doubles league last year, we were offering again this year, only had 6 teams last year. We started a social league, 6 weeks per session, 6 end games. It was very successful. We ran 3 sessions with 8 teams in each session. That's good. We have a fun league and a competitive league doing fun nights, flow curling, doubles and triples, and has been well received. A couple family fun spiels have been successful. Doubles and triples last year, mostly focusing on youth. We're also opening up to adults. We're trying to promote it again this year, in addition to stick league and a family fun night, which will rotate through different drop-in events. Yeah. I know in Rosetown, we tried doubles last year, and it started out really, really well, to the point where we ran 3 sessions throughout the year. We found that people like the idea of a shorter session, and so we simply went 3 sessions a year. If they signed up for the whole year, they paid the same as any other membership would be, and that worked really well. Although you don't get a lot of people in your club from doubles, it still worked out quite well. Anyone else have anything to share that they've tried and what their success rate was?
We've tried it. I think the challenge is doubles and triples. Nobody knows what that is. So you need people that know what it is to teach other people. And it's a little more, it's not too much work. It's just, that's probably the challenge, is if you're getting so-and-so who's never curled before to play doubles curling, they need someone on their team that knows to teach them how to play it. We've
Very
done
true.
some
It does take some work to get it started, doesn't it?
If I can, Brian, what I'd really strongly suggest is the approach that we took last year with it, where we cherry-picked current curlers that we believe were good teachers, and obviously they're good volunteers, and we put teams together with experienced curlers versus new folks, and that seemed to work real well, and I think that addresses Carrie's concern.
Excellent. Okay, well, here, let's ask another question then, the second part of this. Has anyone been experimenting with the formats of the game? Like, are you shortening the number of ends? Are you shortening your leagues? Like I said, in Rosetown, we ran our doubles for 6 weeks, and then another 6 weeks, and they were so popular, we ran for the last 6 weeks. Are you running weekly games? Are you running, say, monthly sponsorship nights where a business will come in and sponsor it just for an evening? Or we'd like to hear that too, as to what different things you're doing other than just leagues, like what you're doing to your leagues, or what people are saying is obviously we're keep talking from 10 end games to 8 end games in competition, but are clubs doing 6 end games? Are they staying with 8? Are they doing 4 and having a few drinks afterwards? Or just what are you doing out there? Love to hear from you.
I'll chime in because I was talking to another club nearby. They have men's leagues, they have ladies league, and maybe something else. But we in Melfort, we do not have men's league. We do not have ladies league. All our leagues are open. We don't care if it's all men or all ladies or mixed. And we also don't really care if a team has 6 people on their team. As long as they pay their team fee, we don't really care, because a lot of people my age, they can't commit to 22 weeks of curling. So I think some teams might even have 8 people on their team. So then there's always someone that can curl, and it doesn't prohibit them from signing up for a team or for a league.
Yeah, that's good. I see in the chat here that There's doubles leagues for 7 weeks. Social league is 6 weeks, 6 end games. Other leagues are still 8 in the main. And that was one comment. Lashburn is the same as what Carrie said. Lots of teams have 5 or 6 players, right? Anyone else have any input into this? What you're doing, what you might be doing differently? Is anyone doing like sponsor nights where a company will come in and maybe put on some appetizers and a few drinks after the games or something like that, where you're not really your members can play, but they don't have to. It could be new people coming in just because of the sponsorship.
Are any clubs, and maybe you can put in the chat function, doing half, like half and half, kind of half seasons, or are most still currently doing the full season type of leagues? Or are there any clubs, I guess, out there this season looking at potentially changing that into half season leagues or 6-pack leagues or 6-week league blocks?
Dustin, I guess a couple of years ago, well, the first year due to COVID, we opted to take payment for half a season. Our afternoon leagues were already doing that, but we weren't in our evening leagues. So it wasn't a split season, but the payment was split, and that was good for those that are a little less financially well off. I'd strongly encourage it if your bookkeeping can handle it.
For sure, it definitely is. As many of our rural clubs are ran by volunteers, and it's definitely much harder to run on the bookkeeper for sure to do half season blocks, but can be also highly beneficial for retaining members or just getting new members in, not having that full on commitment to a 20-week window of leagues. And just looks in the chat, we have in Bengoff running from November to March. In Weyburn started doing half seasons in addition to the full season. This year they're trying to do 3 to 6 week sessions. In Melfort, yeah, half season blocks. Lashburn, November to March. And then in Lanigan, they do 2 seasons as well, November to March.
Well, that's really good. Thanks for that information, everyone. If you want to continue to add to the chat, by all means, but I think Dustin's probably ready to move on to the next one. So that's really good information I can take to my club, and hopefully you can use it in yours. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So next, we're going to be moving into kind of a new strategy that we've been working on over the last year with ourselves in Curling Canada, developing the Discover, Try, Learn, Play, Compete strategy. And it's kind of designed to help clubs increase membership and just kind of provide a kind of strategy in all areas of a club. So kind of the first one being Discover, and kind of to discover is to seek out more information. And this is just about the game in general or about local opportunities to participate. Try is to sample the sport over a short period of time with no commitment to future purchase or engagement. And these programs are aimed at people who have limited previous exposure to the game of curling and will orientate people to curling and what your club has to offer. It's kind of designed to provide a pathway into the sport, and as well as great to recruit potential new members. So you'll see here I list a few examples. And then moving into Learn, so this is to commit to a comprehensive instructional program where they then go to being fully prepared to integrate into league play, as well as subsequent lifelong learning opportunities will follow. So this can be youth or adult programs and aimed at any group from beginner to more advanced. And then Play is to commit to playing games in a more recreational setting. These are leagues or events aimed at allowing curlers to have fun and experience the game on their own terms. And compete is curling allows players and teams to compete with others at similar skill levels and demographics to themselves. And then this can be for any age group. And then just moving into the next slide. So the focus is that clubs should have is to have a balance in all 5 of the areas. And kind of what we've seen just from learning from clubs is clubs will be heavily focused into, oh, we just have play, we just have a ton of leagues, or we just have youth curling in the club. And kind of a successful, well-rounded club will have a balance in all 5 areas. So I have an example here on the next slide, which is kind of a template with kind of an even balance of all 5. The first one being just good advertising, has a club website, word of mouth, local school, rocks and rings. So this is where they first kind of discover the sport in the in-gym program. Try open house, Curl Sask curling experience, drop-in curling, bring a friend night. Learn is the Viterra Blizzard program, adult learn to curl program, private instruction, and a Viterra youth clinic. And then play, we have some different leagues here, as we were just kind of talking about having different formats. This beginner league, you might see U5, and kind of U5 is under 5 years of experience. It's not 3 and 4 year olds out there curling. It's under 5 years of experience. So that's kind of been the new one in Alberta. They actually have a U5 curling provincial they're trying this year, and it's been ran very successful down in the US for a number of years. And then as well as just go curling, casual, no commitment, just able to drop in, and so potentially looking having a few of those nights in your season every year. Compete, hip shot tap, that's a youth skills competition, ages 6 to 13. And then some Super League, curl club championships, or maybe a Curl Sask playdown event to kind of balance out all 5 of the different areas. Is there any feedback there from the Discover, Try, Learn, Play, Compete, or things that might be missing? This is just an example, and I know there's many different ones, but is this kind of a model that your club might be interested in learning more about or using in the future, or maybe something that you haven't thought of before in the different areas? So just wanted to open up the floor here. There's no further questions. We'll move on to the next slide here. And we'd like to welcome Bobby Ray from Curling Canada, who is joining us from Northern Ontario tonight and staying up very late to join us. So thanks for joining us tonight, Bobby.
Hey, thanks, Dustin, and thanks for inviting me. These types of conversations are things that I really enjoy being involved in, even if it is late on a Sunday night. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the invitation. I won't take too much of your time because I know that you're kind of booked for the hour, and I don't want to drag you too far past that. But there's been some things that have been on my mind recently, and I could talk about the business of curling all day, but there's a couple of things here that I've been chatting with Dustin about and thought we'd share with you. These stats that you're seeing on the screen, they came out of the symposium that Curling Canada held in Niagara Falls in, I think it was May or June, it was the spring of this year. I thought it was interesting. There was some research done and a lot more findings than what you're seeing, but these ones certainly popped out. So one of them says that 52% of people participate in the sport, or participate in sport in general, because it's active and it's social. So I think we as the sport of curling have such a great opportunity, given that we have clubs with lounges and kitchens and bars, that we can really leverage what people are looking for in this sense. And when we're going into board and committee meetings and we're opening our clubs this fall, I suggest it's something that you speak about. Not only is our product on the ice good, and are we offering a variety of leagues and programs and open houses and such, but is our lounge comfortable and fun? And are there games and activities to share with the new friends that we're making? Is there good food? Is there a good selection of beverages? Is there something that's keeping us around and engaging us in our new community that is additional to just the 2 hours of cold that we also endure? 89% of people have watched curling in Canada. That's a really great thing for us, because when we have curling fans, that's sort of a gateway into them wanting to learn more about our sport and perhaps try it themselves or learn it themselves. So what are we doing to capture these people? One of the largest challenges that we have is that most people are discovering curling by seeing it on TV, by watching the Brier and the Scotties and the Grand Slam, and the Olympics is the biggest one. But these are happening in January and February, and our season's rolling to an end, and it's sometimes difficult to capture that enthusiasm when our schedule is already underway. So there were some questions and conversation even earlier tonight about, do you have a half season? Do you have a third of a season? Can we bring people into the sport in February and March and somehow wrap them through the summer and keep them excited to come back next fall? So just things to think about. 77% of people perceive finding a team to be one of the largest barriers they have when they consider curling as a sport that might be for them. So how do we overcome this? And in my opinion, Learn to Curl is probably the greatest recruitment and retention program that curling has nowadays. And I'm talking about the tried, true, and tested Learn to Curl program. There's a curriculum for it. It lays it all out. It tells you how to run your lesson plans and how long it should be and what you can charge for it and how you recruit instructors and all this kind of stuff. If you haven't seen it, reach out to Dustin, he can get you a copy. But learning to curl is an individual sport. You can sign up by yourself, you can sign up with a spouse or with a team, but when you're learning, it's very independent work. And you'll find that if you run a successful program, that you'll connect a lot of individuals and teams will naturally form and integrate into your club. 46% of people believe they're not skilled enough to join a curling club. So, the same response, there are other solutions too, but considering having an official Learn to Curl program is something that every board should be speaking about. And why Learn to Curl works is because we use trained instructors that are knowledgeable about the sport, that have great customer service skills to introduce the sport of curling over an appropriate amount of time where proper learning and development can occur. We're famous as a sport for doing the 6-hour Learn to Curl on the first Saturday of the season, and it's almost torturous to put new people through 6 hours of curling when they haven't played before, and they wake up the next morning, their joints are aching and the rest. But if we can spread that over an 8-week period and actually have them learn the sport, because we know it's difficult, we know it's quite technical, and they can learn balance properly, and they can learn strategy, and they can learn everything they need to gain confidence to then join one of your leagues. Let's check out the next slide. Just something else I've been thinking about a lot recently and hearing a lot about recently. So in my new role, my title is Manager of Club Development for Curling Candidates, day 18 officially on the job for me. And I've been to Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Southern Ontario before joining you tonight to hear about the similar types of opportunities and challenges that they're facing as curling clubs. And we hear a lot about these questions, and they've already come up tonight, like who is going to do all these things? Who's going to put in the hard work? Will it be volunteers? Going to be a staff person? It's an extremely contentious conversation to have in curling nowadays, but it'll continue until we figure it out is who's going to do all this work. And what's interesting is you'll actually see some clubs across Canada have a lot of success with employing staff first, so that the new staff can go out and generate the revenue to pay for themselves, and then some more. And as those people are doing that, they're creating energy and they're spreading information about throughout the community, and they're getting more members, and those members are spending more money as a result. Just something we need to be thinking about. But also, how do we get more people to volunteer? Just quickly, the number one reason that people don't volunteer is that they weren't asked. We're notoriously poor delegators in our sport, and I've been bad with that in the past myself, where you think, there's an event coming up on the weekend and someone needs to get the trophies and the prizes. So I'm gonna have to introduce this new volunteer to the person that I know, where they purchase all the prizes. And you think, it's just too much work. I already know what to do. I'll do it myself. But it's not a good way of sort of passing the torch and bringing somebody in on a small task that might connect them to wanting to do more to give back to their club. Just one more tip with volunteering too. I'm hearing from a lot of clubs that are having success sort of writing job descriptions for their volunteers and their committees. So they're finding that new volunteers want a better understanding of what they're signing up for. And it's hard not to blame them. So giving someone a one page that says, this is what you'd be responsible for. These are the goals we have and the objectives we're trying to reach. And also here's your start date and your end date. Because one of the worst things about being a volunteer is the potential black hole of commitment where you become the president of your curling club board for the rest of your life. So having job descriptions with where we could have some succession come out of that is something to work on. What's on the next slide? I think this might be the last one for me, and it kind of plays into, how do you get that younger emerging generation to come into your club? And these are some of the things we know about that demographic is they cherish their time more than their money. So it might be difficult to get them to volunteer, but they're not actually offended when you ask them to pay more to play or to purchase a membership or sign up for whatever you're offering. Especially post-pandemic, I'm not sure if everyone's in this situation. I've spoken to a lot of friends and family and acquaintances who have endured 2 years of being locked in their homes, and they've reflected and they've said, you know what, my time here on earth is precious, it's limited. I want to spend it doing the things that I enjoy doing, and baking muffins for the bake sale or hanging out at the bingo hall for the curling club isn't that thing. I love curling, I love hanging out with my friends. I want to show up, I want to have a beverage with them after the game, I want to laugh, I want to go home, and I'm willing to pay for that. The emerging generation seems to be more minimalist. They don't need stuff as much as they cherish experiences and some bond spiels that are really successful. And it sounds like Carrie has a really great one happening in her community. What we're finding is that those bond spiels aren't intensive on the banquet and the prize side of things. We're not spending thousands of dollars on toasters, fishing rods, tool sets, prime rib dinners, because it doesn't matter to those people. They just want to have fun. They'd rather have a slice of pizza and a good band and some off-ice activities, and everyone sort of enjoys themselves. And the last thing I'll say is that when we're looking to recruit new members, it's one of the best opportunities we have to experiment. So if we're not experimenting with new members, it's an opportunity lost because they don't know what's always been. They're not sort of burdened by a precedent that we might have set in the past or a tradition that we've had since opening our clubs 50 and 100 years ago. My predecessor, I'm sure you've met him over the years, Danny Lambrew, one of his most famous comments, and I'm going to keep it with me forever, is he says that new curlers don't know they're supposed to be cheap. And I love it because it's so true. People come to our clubs expecting to pay like they'd pay at the golf course, like they pay when they're eating a meal out at a restaurant in town, like they pay any other business. And I think we should look at taking advantage of that and offering them a good value in return, rather than trying to race to the bottom and make sure that it's the most affordable entertainment in town. I think I'll leave it at that. I'm certainly happy to take questions if there are any tonight, but realizing that it's short on time, you could also reach out to me. That the best way to find me is my name, bobbyray.ca. If you go there, then my phone number, my email address, and social media is on that page. So thanks again, Dustin, for the invitation.
Thanks a bunch, Bobby. I think that's a wonderful quote from Danny, and happy you are carrying that forward, because I think it couldn't be said any better. Before maybe hop into if there's any questions, do you want to just talk about Curling.io maybe for a minute here?
I certainly can. I don't know if there's any clubs using it. My home club, I used to be the manager there for 10 years. We're a fully Curling.io implemented curling rink. So it's online registration. We don't touch cash, check. Everyone's signed up, paid before the season starts. It wasn't always perfect. It takes a couple of years to get into a good role with things. But Curling.io is an online registration platform that was created by Curling Canada and their member associations for clubs to use at no cost. The only cost you incur is not to the association, but to the credit card processors, and that's the same whichever business you do. So if somebody swipes their credit card, you pay 2.9% and 30 cents. But in my opinion, it's the best 2.9%, 30 cents you'll ever spend, because you don't have to manage it. You don't have to administrate it. It goes straight to your bank account. You get the individual's profile or their membership form with all their age and address and phone number stored online, and all the waivers that we have to sign nowadays related to whether it be safe sport or concussions and COVID the last couple of years, anything that gets done online, stored online. You can be paperless if you so desired, and this is available to you to explore.
And Doug, I just saw your message there in the chat, and Curling.io is continuously improving and expanding on their different options available, both at the club for a league perspective and also from an MA perspective as well. So it's yeah, that's the platform we use at Curl Sask as well, and it's definitely the platform to go with for online registration. And as well, we just have Rhonda mentioned in Moose Jaw there, they use it as well, and really good program. So if interested, I can send out the link, or if you're interested in learning more, for sure. Awesome, thanks, Bobby. We'll just move into the next slide here. I think we have a slide coming up on Curling Day in Saskatchewan and Curling Day in Canada. So just wanted to have you guys bookmark these two dates. The first one, Curling Day in Saskatchewan, will be on January 27th. This is the Friday during the Scotties. And thanks to our friends at Affinity Credit Union, we'll be having a contest this year as well. So we'll likely be centered around having a club event on that date. So definitely one to bookmark. And then Curling Day in Canada will be on February 25th, 2023. And Bobby, I'm not sure if you wanted to mention any details or contests you have on that day as well.
I think they'll be similar to the past if anyone's experienced, but I don't have super details right now. One thing I'd sort of just say again is we tend to think that recruiting new curlers, that the best time to do this is the fall, and it's not actually true. It's the most convenient time for clubs to recruit new members. I understand that, but new curlers don't know what curling is until their friends are talking about it because they're in a league, until they've seen it on TV, until the big shows rolled into a local community, and then they think, oh, I'd love to try that. So Curling Day in Saskatchewan, Curling Day in Canada are appropriately placed in the calendar to do that, but our clubs need to figure out a way to be flexible and bring new people in at that time. And that's what Dustin and I are here to help figure that out.
Perfect. We'll move into the next slide, and one of our last things on the agenda tonight, and it's Canva. And I think all of the clubs have received kind of the email, and just since we are tight a bit for time, I won't go through all the different ways to use Canva, but essentially it's a graphic design platform used to create social media graphics, posters, and other visual content. And you can also schedule content directly from inside the platform to your social media accounts, or maybe you're outsourcing these duties to an expert or a volunteer or a board member. So I'm just going to take you quickly through how to design just a quick try curling. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Just give me 1 second. So thanks to Bobby, we've been working to get Canva not-for-profit, and we have been confirmed. So we do get 50 free accounts to add to our Canva team to use Canva. Otherwise, it is Canva Pro is a additional fee. But so we do have a bunch of different graphics already made, ready to edit right on Canva for clubs. So I'm just going to click on. Just give me 1 second.
Our curling club has a pro account as well. I just emailed them and said I'm a nonprofit, and they gave us a free
Nice.
account as well. But the other one I really like is Poster My Wall. It's really easy to find. They have more templates I like. And then you usually have to pay for the better quality version of it, but
Right.
it's another one I like.
Yeah, and that's kind of something we've been finding, kind of the Western MAs and Bobby as well. We've been working on adding to kind of the team here of a bunch of different ones, as sometimes we've all seen maybe a not so great social media post, and sometimes they are harder to create. And you may have seen kind of over the last week some of one of the Curl Sask ones popping up on our Curling Clubs Connects, but So, and I know a few clubs on the call have already, sorry, I'm just moving my screens around here so I can edit here, have access to this. So essentially once you do, and if you are wanting to click on one of these ones and use these templates, you'll have to unlock each of these different things you want to edit first. So you'll click on this little lock thing over here and just unlock it, and then you'll have to do that for each one, and it'll give you access to edit all of them. And I believe if you actually highlight, maybe highlight doesn't go, but so if you wanted to add your club logo here, we can unlock it, and we're just going to go to our uploads. We have, we're going to use the Sutherland Curling Club here as an example. We'll just move this one over here. And then maybe your club has some different club colors that you want to use. So it allows you to edit all of the different colors. We'll use green because we're here in Saskatchewan. And as well as if you have a photo you want to insert, we can unlock it right into, and we won't change the photo, but we could add, sorry, just give me 1 sec. I think it's still locked. We could add a photo, maybe not the best because it covers all the faces, but does let you add photos. If you unlock here, you can change the date and time. So we'll go October 1, 1 p.m. Then we can also change the cost here. So one thing I found with Canva, it's a lot of trial and error, and just using it a bunch of times to just get familiar with the program. But yeah, there's a ton of different graphics available and that are ready to go to just edit, so you don't have to create your own that look awesome. So, and then once you're done, you'll go to share here, and then you'll download it here as a PNG. So we'll just do the first one. So you go done, and then you click download, and it'll download right to your desktop there. So, and then one other just function I'll show here that you're able to do is you can also resize it for the different programs. So an A4 is the poster doc that we use. And then as well as we switch through to Facebook cover, maybe have a Facebook event. There's Facebook specifically and Instagram, but it has all the different sizes to use there. And then there's also different ways to center. You can put bullets in, different effects here on the side to change kind of the font. So that's kind of a very brief Canva tutorial. Bobby also has kind of a longer Canva tutorial as well that he's put together, but any kind of Canva questions, you can send them my way, and it's just, we would like you to send in through your club email to add your club, and we can add you to this kind of marketing platform for free. Any questions there on the Canva marketing? We'll just get Kellen to pull up the PowerPoint slide deck there again. It's a very brief overview.
Dustin,
There, Bobby, that's super key.
I was just going to suggest that Canva is such a popular program and it's used worldwide that in addition to your tutorial and mine, you could go on YouTube, and there are people that are smarter than the two of us, if you can believe it.
I know.
There's some great videos too. So just go on YouTube, go into Google, and you can learn quite quickly how to use this thing. It's a great tool.
For sure. Nope, absolutely. It's wonderful. And I was kind of introduced it a couple of years ago when I started for Curl Sask, and a couple of the graphics that I made back in 2020, I'm pretty embarrassed about some of what I put out, but as you move along, it definitely becomes an easier platform to use. And as the kind of saying goes, let's design great curling promotions together. So if your club's interested, just reach out to me through club email, and I can add you to the Curl Sask team there. Awesome. So now just moving into our last part, just the open forum and Q&A. just want to address any questions you might have on just kind of if you had anything pop up tonight that you just thought of now that you wanted to ask, and if you have any questions for just Curl Sask here when it comes to club development or kind of any expectations or how we can help your club, we'll open the floor here for a few questions, and then for after a couple, we'll just being conscious of time, we'll maybe take those offline afterwards.
I'll just make a comment because we've these fun spills are bringing people on the ice. But they've all curled once in high school, is what it sounds like. They've all been on the ice at least once in high school. And the people that we cannot get on the ice have never curled before, unless they've had a few drinks. So if you're the only curling club in your area, like we have a partnership with the high school in Melfort and the school in James Smith Cree Nation. All those students come and curl in our facility. Where we're probably lacking is we need to get the students in nearby St. Brew and Star City, and sounds like Canistino Curling Club is no more anymore. We need to get those students in our rink because yeah, we have a generation of kids from St. Brew that have never curled before and they don't want to curl, or they're scared to. So really make sure you're getting the students at least to curl once in high school. That's our experience.
No, that's a great comment, and also something we've been working on more is that's kind of an area we've identified. I think it could be said nationwide, but in Saskatchewan is lots of schools aren't doing curling. We have lots that are, but also some that aren't too. So that's definitely something we do have an advantage here that most kids do have a curling experience, especially if there's a curling rink in the community through their phys ed program for sure. And then Kellen, I can maybe just talk about it if there's anyone still thinking of questions, but on the next slide, we do have some resources available for all of our member clubs, and two are just actually Facebook groups to kind of look at joining. And the first one on here is Saskatchewan Curling Clubs Connect. So if you just search that there in your Facebook account in the search engine, join that club, and lots of clubs post on there, and some post questions, and some post stuff happening in their club. So that would be one thing as a connection between all the clubs in the province on there. And then the next one is a nationwide one, the Business of Curling group. So that's another Facebook group. And then hopping back to the first one, talking about diversity and inclusivity, we do have a resource on our website as well under the development tab, but there's also on curling.ca, diversity, inclusivity, with a bunch of resources there on attracting those that haven't curled to the sport. And then coming soon, there'll be a Business of Curling website, a new one that talks about those following 6 things. That will be an online website that Bobby might have a comment on there. And then the last 2 just being contacting us at Curl Sask, and then as well as we have 7 fantastic region coordinators who are very knowledgeable and been around the sport a long time. So reaching out to them as well via email on regioncoordinators@curlsask.ca. And then yeah, any other questions before we sign off here tonight? We will be sharing this town hall recording to everyone here in the next couple days, and as well as having another town hall meeting later this season. But before then, definitely check out our social media pages to stay up to date. Any questions before we sign off here tonight? Well, if there's no further questions, I'll share this, like I said, this video recording with everyone, as well as mine and Bobby's contact information. If anyone has any additional questions or wants to reach out after the Zoom call here. And yeah, have a great curling season, and we will see you all on the ice here soon.